Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public. And we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Wednesday. It is January the 8th, and we are streaming live right now on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. We are streaming live on X, aka Twitter. I wish they hadn't changed the name. I got to tell you that. We're also over on locals at KyleSeraphin.com if you want to join us there, and you can always find the replay, which many of you may be hearing right now, over on Podbean, on Apple, on Spotify, and so on. For some reason, Spotify didn't post our episode yesterday. So if you're wondering where the heck it is, I also am wondering that. If you want to tag them on a social media and ask them where our episode went, I would like to know. It posted. It says it's there. 0 views on Spotify. Very unusual. I'm sure we're not being censored there. That would never happen, right? All right. I did get a really nice message from one of you all, somebody I actually know, but a friend of our family reached out and said that episode 460 was the best episode we've done yet. If you guys think so, make sure you've liked this video. Make sure you're subscribed to our channels wherever you're watching. We're also obviously over on YouTube. Anywhere that you guys see it, if you want to share it with your friends, we'd appreciate that. A little bit of sharing goes a long way when it comes to helping grow the audience and getting people involved. Today, we're going to be talking about the Gulf of America, or the so-called dawning of the golden age of America that Donald Trump has promised. I got some reflections that are maybe a little bit outside of the norm from watching him. One of them has to do with sort of going through this experience that we've gone through, me and some of the other suspendables, and probably some of you who have just been on edge for 4 years, just waiting for this thing to end. And I think Donald Trump is sleeping better at night. I'm going to show you in a little bit here. I promise you that much. Before we get deep into that, before we get started with any of the other exciting things that we're going to talk about, which there are plenty, including some maybe some changes in the U.S. Senate. You guys are going to have to stick around for that for sure. Let's just say thanks to our friends that are sponsoring the program, folks like Blackout Coffee. Folks will tell you about the coffee company that is shaking up the coffee world. It's not a typical run-of-the-mill brew from a corporate giant that doesn't share your values, likes to spit on cops and say things they don't want to give you the coffee that you want in their stores. I'm not talking about anybody specifically. Blackout Coffee is bold. They're unapologetic, and they're America first. They're probably very excited about the Gulf of America. This month, you can make it really easy. You can give yourself a gift if you missed out over the Christmas holidays of amazing coffee and cocoa and tea or anything else that is drinkable right there, including their gear, which is not necessarily drinkable, but you can drink from it. That's right. Blackout Coffee is running sales all month long. All you got to use is our promo code. It's KYLE. You'll save up to 20% when you do so. Whether it's a bag of premium roasted coffee, delicious hot cocoa, or a box of specialty teas, you can find something for yourself this month in January. The gift of the Magi was bringing all kinds of things, golds, frankincense, and myrrh. You can bring yourself coffee, tea, or hot cocoa. How about that? Let's not forget about gear. They've got mugs, they've got shirts, and so on. Designed to make a statement, they've got the Blackout Coffee gear, which also kind of suspiciously looks like the front of a bolt carrier group for an AR-15. I'm sure that's unrelated. Don't wait. Head over to blackoutcoffee.com/Kyle, blackoutcoffee.com/Kyle, and get stocked up. Because we are stocked up here today, we're going to get right into it. Ready to go. I'm a little hyped. Yeah, I'm just going to own it right there. A little bit hyped. A lot of interesting stuff happening. Here it is. 119th Congress begins. That doesn't just include the House. That also includes the Senate. The Senate is where I'm particularly interested. There was a little bit of a a teaser that I saw on socials the other day from Scott Pressler. Scott Pressler is a guy who's tall. He has very long hair. He walks around and does a lot of sort of like grassroots signups. Some people like him. Some people don't. He's always been very nice to me. So I think Scott Pressler's okay. And he posted a picture of himself with a guy that I would refer to as Senator Casual Friday, also known as John Fetterman. I'm going to show you in a minute why I think it was very interesting and perhaps was teasing out something. Man, wouldn't it be interesting if the balance of power shifted even more in favor in the one place where Republicans really need it? Do they need it in the House? Yes. If they want to introduce bills and they want to get the spending packages sent out there, yeah, that's really important. But they really need to get these people confirmed. The cabinet that Donald Trump has appointed or that is suggested he's going to appoint, they need the advice and consent of the Senate. And that means you need senators to vote. And there are some real turncoat types on the Republican side that don't really do the work that you'd hope they would. They have an R next to their name, but you guys call them rhinos. I would say they're the real Republican Party, which is to say status quo Washington. What if you could get somebody to break the mold? What if it was someone like Senator Casual Friday who decided to show up and doesn't wear a suit? Who would that guy be? You guys got a little bit of a sense of that. Listen, here is the balance of power in the United States Senate directly from a Senate website. This is worth looking at. In the 118th Congress, this was the previous Congress. That's how they keep track of them. The majority party, Democrats. The minority party, Republicans. There were 4 independents that voted along with the Democrats. So remember, you've got 4 independents that are kind of in play, but they're really not, right? So you see the shift of power here. Democrats lost 2. It's a very, very narrow majority. And one of those Democrats is a guy named John Fetterman. Before we do the John Fetterman thing, which I think is really interesting and opens up our discussion about the golden age of America, it opens up the discussion about what's going to happen with the Panama Canal, with the Greenland potential purchase, potential conquest. Is that all real? Is it possible? Maybe. I think Donald Trump is a master troll, and he certainly gets people talking about the things that he wants by not ruling anything out, as you'd expect. That's actually the best way to go about it. Here's a guy named Gerald Nadler. He looks like the Penguin. He looks like a villain from a cartoon. He's a pretty detestable little waddling man, and he is little, and he is waddling, and he's really gross. And here he is rising in strong opposition to a bill because Republicans are racist, because they don't care about immigrants. They don't care about making people who came here illegally and broke our laws in the process. They don't care about making those people feel safe in the United States. And what are we saying? We're saying this is bad because the bill is misnamed? How about some people came to this country and killed Americans who would otherwise be alive if not for a failed executive office that stopped letting the Border Patrol and the CBP, the folks that are supposed to do their job. Some of you guys may have seen this thing on social media yesterday. It's actually released, and I didn't even put it up on the screen because apparently it's inert. But these were RPGs that were seized by the port of entry, the CBP customs inspection in Nogales. Now, if you've ever gone through and driven, a lot of people probably have never driven to another country, particularly driving into Mexico. Most of you who do not live near a border, this is not a thing for you. But I used to spend time in a place called Antelope Wells, which is a very, very small border checkpoint on the southern side of New Mexico, very close to Arizona. It is the 1 or 2 spots over from Nogales. So it's just a road you're driving on in the middle of the desert. There's nothing for 50 miles. I think the city is like is it Lordsburg? Something like that. You're driving for like nothing but desert and mountains and plateaus, and you start having all these visions of imagining the wagon trains in the West, and you're rolling out there, and you're like, oh man, you could see like that would be where the Indians would ambush us. You would see a horse up there, and then a bunch of people would come in and be whooping and hollering and tomahawk you or something. Like that's the feeling because it's so isolated. And then you hit this little border checkpoint in the middle of nowhere that is just a line. There are fences. There's a little concrete road. There's a turnoff for inspection, and there's an inspection on the way into Mexico if you're a U.S. citizen, where they actually do check some things. And then there's one that's more severe if you're on your way out of Mexico into the United States, and they can do all kinds of other wild stuff there. But on the way out, apparently, on the way out, I'm going to say it again, they the Border Patrol, sorry, not Border Patrol, the CBP, that's Border Protection, Customs and Border Protection, seized like some inert RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades. They look like something you'd see like fighters in Afghanistan have. I think they were RPG-7 clones. And it makes you wonder, like, one, Why in the hell are you going to Mexico with that thing? Did they just save some dude's life? Because it's real possible. They may have actually saved some dude's life that was going to go sell some inert garbage to like cartels. But they posted it up on their thing. It caused a little hubbub, and it made us wonder again, how many weapon systems that have no business being in the United States that shouldn't be like running free are being run and trafficked into Mexico. That is a legacy that happened under Barack Obama with Eric Holder and the Fast and Furious. This is like a really, it's not news, but it continues to be a problem. And then you consider thinking, well, yeah, of course the Biden administration would have continued bad policies like that. All right. That's a long setup for a guy named Jerry Nadler, who is awful. And anyway, enjoy the detestable Jerry Nadler.
Speaker, I rise in strong opposition to H.R. 29. I want to start by expressing my deepest condolences to Laken Riley's family. Her death was a tragedy, and we all mourn her loss. May her memory be a blessing. I wish that we were considering legislation that was worthy of her name. Instead, the Republican majority is beginning this new Congress right where they left off in the last one, with legislation that targets and scapegoats immigrants, but does nothing to address the real problems in our broken immigration system, all while ignoring basic due process and constitutional principles.
Yeah, you're going to talk to us about constitutional principles? I don't want to hear it. I don't. By the way, advice and consent is an interesting kind of concept. It means that the Senate is supposed to approve, but it really does mean that they're supposed to approve. There should be a pretty narrow window where we're not approving cabinet picks. For whatever reason, you've seen this full court press. It's like we lost all the elections. We're going to try to defy the will of the American people writ large. And so you're seeing the Senate push one way. Again, that number in the Senate where they gain 2 seats, essentially, I want to show you something that's a little bit unsettling or a little bit surprising, perhaps. Again, I call him Senator Casual Friday because the dude decided to show up to a Fox News interview wearing a hoodie. But good on him. Here's Fetterman doing the thing that you'd expect politicians would do, which is to say, I'm going to meet with anybody. I'm going to have that conversation with them. And if I can get on board with what they're about, or we can negotiate something that makes sense, or if I feel okay with what this person says, I'll know. Maybe because Fetterman, like a lot of you, is a premillennial human being. I got to find a way to say that clearly. A Gen X, like the boomers, like the folks before. We used to always have friends we didn't agree with, didn't we? There was a proper time in America, and this may harken back to this sort of idea of a golden age that Donald Trump is talking about, when we didn't agree with everything around us. This is particularly interesting in the sort of social media environment that I'm watching right now, where I see guys like Sebastian Gorka attacking Sean Ryan, of all people. For what? And Gorka's wrong. It comes from the same school of thought that someone attacked me and the guys around me because we said Julie Kelly was inaccurate. Like, she's wrong. She can have an opinion. It just happens to be that the facts that she's saying are wrong. And when you're wrong, we don't have to not be friends. We don't have to become enemies because I said you're inaccurate. How many of your friends have corrected you? You were like, hey, this thing happened. And you're like, no, that's not what happened. You weren't there. This is the other, it actually was a little bit less than that. It wasn't a punch out at the soccer field. No, like somebody spilled water on the other guy and then there was a shoving match. And you go, oh, I didn't know that. Well, I don't agree. Now we're not friends. That's the culture we're in right now. It's so reactionary and stupid. Here's John Fetterman, like pushing back and, I don't know, bringing that sort of like 80s, 90s sensibility of all my friends don't agree with me and I'm willing to talk to people that have different perspectives. God forbid, it's refreshing to see for once. Here we go.
Is this Tulsi Gabbard one of the nominees that you could vote for?
Well, I met with her. In fact, I think I've met with virtually all of them. And the ones that I haven't, they're on my schedule, RFK and Governor Noem. So I'm happy to meet with all of them. And that's also part of this. I don't know why that was controversial. I mean, I got a lot of blowback just, even to meet with them. And to me, I see that as just doing my job. And I'm going to have a conversation with anyone that would like to have a conversation with me. And if someone believed everything that's been written or said about me was true, I mean, you can't possibly know me, or I think I could know her either, just based on someone read. But I want to sit down and have a conversation, and I'm really glad that I've done that. And some of these nominees I'm going to vote for already. In fact, whether it's our colleague Rubio, our Representative Stefanik, or even Sean Duffy, I expect to vote for him as well too, and Brooke Rollins for agriculture. Yeah. So there's a lot of them I can say right now here on Fox. I'm going to vote for them. But then there's others, but that we're going to go through the process. But I'm open to hear from everyone. And I don't know why that's controversial. And I also would like to remind everyone on the Democratic side, that's the way democracy works. Trump won, and now they're going to run the table. And so they get to pick those kinds of people. And if you don't have to agree with all of it, but I want to find a way to work together on a bunch of them.
And I want to commend him on that.
I want to commend him too. Gen X for the win right there, right? He's 55 years old. I did the lookup. I realized I hadn't confirmed what generation, although I assumed that was the case. You just want to be a guy that doesn't agree with everything someone says, but it's an understanding that there's a process, and you got to make sure that when the president comes in and he has the House and he has the Senate and he's got people he wants to work with, then you just go, okay, we're not going to get our people in. They're like, we're not going to put our advisors into another administration. I just want you to see the numbers up there. U.S. Senate, Democrat, 47. Republican, squishy, 53. How interesting. Fetterman already confirmed he's going to go along with a couple of people. And he didn't just do that. He actually went further. So credit to the Vigilant Fox account that's been sharing this video, which I'll give credit where it's due. People that rip the clips. This is another really good little moment where he's saying, hey guys, Trump's saying things. Have you not been paying attention to why we lost? Do you not get it? It's so easy. Donald Trump is speaking to the American heart. He's saying, let's talk about some things. Let's have some conversations that might be weird. Why did we give up Panama? Have we lost some dominance in our hemisphere? Are we allowing the Chinese to come in and dominate it? Do we need a buffer zone against what's going on in Russia? Is that a reasonable conversation to have for the chief executive who comes in, who pretty much has a history of no new wars? The fun thing is, he's saying this, and everybody lost their mind about Donald Trump saying, I'm not going to rule out a military option. Why would you rule out any option? Also, he's trolling them. We have a funny little article that's written from the perspective of the hard left MSNBC types. And they're just like, oh, it represents the worst. Are we going to go to war with Greenland? How long would that war take? 18 seconds? It reminds me of like the Falkland Islands War. By the way, Trump is saying things that the Brits said back then. And did they get kind of lambasted for it? Yeah, they did. But we're living in a kind of a different time where this mass media game, he's just screwing with them. He's like, oh, let me throw out this red meat that's going to make you really upset. And while they're doing that, he's out there trying to get his cabinet picks in. Anyway, here's Fetterman saying more logical things. I mean, go figure. Like I said, that stroke did a lot of good things for the dude. Or he was always kind of a reasonable guy. I wonder if we actually came out better in Pennsylvania than we could have. His recovery seems to be complete.
There's a lot of talk about Greenland, for example. Now, and I know there's a lot of freakouts, and of course I would never support taking it by force. But I do think it's a responsible conversation if they were open to acquiring it and whether just buying it outright. I mean, if anyone think that's bonkers, it's like, well, remember the Louisiana Purchase? Oh, I think Alaska was a great deal too. $50 million, I think it was. It was referred to as Seward's Folly. And now that was Alaska now. So, I mean, open to having all kinds of conversations as well. And now I don't think it's not helpful to freak out, but some things might work out, some may not, but that's part of an ongoing dialogue. But he hasn't even taken office in 2 weeks. And, we really need to pace ourselves if we're going to freak out over every last tweet or every last conversation or press conference. Because, but
That's a good one, John. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, we are here to work together. Yeah. And some things you can agree or disagree, but I think that's how DC works.
Man, that sounded totally reasonable, didn't it? Did he also just drop like a little Seward's Folly reference in there? That's pretty good. Who gave him that one? He's obviously going off the cuff right now. His memory is awfully well recovered. There was a moment when he started it by saying goodnight, like I'm out of here. That was the first thing he said is good evening, I'm out in that debate. Yeah, we may have dodged a bullet. I don't know. God's got his hand on this country, whether you guys understand it or not, whether you can tell when it happens. It makes me think that we need to breathe just a little bit. Our plan, whatever it would be, it is imperfect because we are men and women. We just don't know. We just don't know what's going to happen. And how many times has God worked through strange and unusual vessels? A lot. Here's one that is not one of God's unusual vessels. This is just what you'd expect. This is actually kind of a comedy post here, so I just wanted to lighten it up because with all the talk of taking taking Greenland or taking back the Panama Canal, which, by the way, my wife suggested that thing like over a decade ago. I just want to put it that my wife, Emily, went OG on conquer down to the Panama Canal and take it back right when we were still dating at the time. So I don't know. It's almost 15 years ago now, I guess. Something like that. That's kind of funny. This is Justin Trudeau, who we talked about the other day. I played you a little bit of his concession speech where he said, I'm going to resign. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to let the will of the Canadian people. There's a comedian named Danny Polishek who does an awesome job of really, really questionable AI, like that's super close to reality. And this is the speech that Justin Trudeau should have given. It's the reasons the Snow Mexicans, who are our natural allies. I don't know why that made somebody laugh the other day, but I got a nice message saying you cracked me up by talking about the folks that live up in America's attic. Look, the reason that Canada probably should just give up the ghost and join us in whatever it looks like. They can have a couple territories. You're not allowed to vote yet. You have a lot of commies. We know this. You elected a commie for a long time. But the reason is because you've lost the one thing that Canada used to be the chief exporter of good hockey teams. And they no longer do that. So I think this speech is actually closer to reality. I think Donald Trump would agree with this. In fact, I would like to hear Donald Trump call out Trudeau for his failure to produce solid hockey teams. His only job as prime minister. And we should get Trudeau to sing the national anthem of Canada, which is Sorry by Justin Bieber. Here you go.
Today is a dark day for Canada. Last night, the USA won gold at the World Junior Hockey Tournament for the second year in a row. Also, for the second year in a row, Canada didn't even medal. This country can't even say we're good at hockey anymore. And even worse than that for our country, today I announce my resignation. Don't get too sad, though I'm still the Prime Minister for a few months. I'm really going to draw this thing out. I know every resident of this country will be deeply saddened by this news, and I look forward to seeing every last one of you wearing a black armband to mourn the end of my time as the greatest Prime Minister this country has ever seen. Did I make some mistakes as Prime Minister? No, definitely not. It has been an honor of a lifetime to fuck up this country to the point of no return. I mean, shit, I did such a bad job. This place might be America before we even have an election.
Yo! Take it easy, Justin. That's a little bit harsh on yourself. But he did say that he didn't do anything wrong. Although, it might be America by the end of this thing. We'll see. Okay, we're going to talk about Trump, the golden age, and the things that are going on right after this. Let's just say that this is kind of the crunch time. There are a lot of people in Washington that still want to do some bad things. The administration has not been sworn in yet. So whether it be an attack on the homeland, whether it be an invasion, whether it be us taking over something or something breaking out like the Snow Mexican invasion coming in from the north, shouldn't take any chances. I say that flippantly, but we have an emergency food supply here from My Patriot Supply, and you should do the same thing. Check it out. Find the one that fits your budget. Right now, they're doing $100 off the 3-month emergency food kit. You could buy one for you, one for a loved one, or you could split it between a couple people and just know that you only got, 45 days or so. 2,000 calories per day on whole for 3 months. It's enough to get you through a pretty decent looking emergency. And also at the same time, it's something that'll last for a long time, up to 25 years in storage if you keep it out of the sun. They come in these rugged, waterproof buckets that are stackable, which is very helpful because they fill up my entire closet. And you can get yours at preparelikekyle.com. Just go to preparelikekyle.com right now and order that 3-month emergency food kit you just saw on the screen. I've got them in the Seraphin family coat closet. We don't have any coats in there. We just have emergency food. You can get the same. Again, preparelikekyle.com. Get your order in today if you guys are so inclined. And you don't even need a promo code. It's very easy. You might as well. Oh, that's the Congress bringing it. Let's get into the golden age. Before we do, maybe we'll talk about this because this is kind of interesting. I saw this on CNN. I don't know why I found it quite amusing, but maybe in light of the fires that are kicking up right now. Bad news for home buyers in the Northeast and the Midwest. And you're like, oh, well, is it good in the Pacific Northwest and like the Southwest? No, it's not. It's actually not good news in a lot of places. This is kind of just an interesting thing. They were talking about rates, which I think is something that is kind of banal. It's not very exciting, but it's relevant. Potential home shoppers in the Northeast and Midwest may be in for a disappointment that despite the cooling in last year's intensively competitive house buying market, a new report from Zillow says that some areas will in fact stay especially competitive. Maybe in light of Donald Trump announcing that we're going to annex Canada, Buffalo, New York tops the list of hottest housing markets. Who's moving to Buffalo? Listen, if you are moving to Buffalo, will you please let me know in our comments? And I want to know why. Are you just a big fan of freezing your butt off? I'll tell you one person who's not going, Steve Friend. It is cold in Buffalo. It just finally got cold for the first time here in Texas. Anyway, Buffalo has 2 new jobs per home. Whatever the heck that means. It means that Buffalo's seeing an influx of new workers moving into the city, pushing home building far behind the demand, says the chief economist at Zillow. Very interesting. All these companies, by the way, Zillow, Realtor.com, a lot of them you think like, oh, their job is to sell advertising to realtors. Yeah, but their big job is to just gather data, which they sell and they kind of weaponize against you. If you talk about doing something, or if you're looking into something, it tells them who's moving where because they can track your searches. If they're tracking my searches, they know that I might move in America somewhere. That's kind of fun. But yeah, what a weird thing. Buffalo's home prices are forecasted to grow by 3%. It's going to cost you 3% more in 2025 after jumping 6% last year. This is not a good sign. Who's moving to upstate in New York? You guys are kind of wild. Maybe it's people moving out of other places in New York to a slightly less communist place. Anyway, buying a home has become more difficult for Americans, elevated mortgage rates, so on and so forth. They said there's supposed to be one more Fed rate cut, but the problem is there's a contrast, things that are going to essentially work against those rate cuts because there are places where you're going to find falling rates and it's going to be over in the Pacific and the Southwest. But fire insurance and other kind of like natural disasters have stepped up and filled that gap. So we're going to talk a little bit about fires because that is what's going on right now in California. And I guess that also changes the home buying market when your insurance, whether it be for flood, whether it be for hurricane, or whether it be for fire like this. Look at this blaze. It looks terrible. This is Los Angeles County. Residents are fleeing wind-fueled wildfires that are destroying homes in LA County. Now, this is actually what should be a scandal. And for those of you that are feeling like dunking on California right now, or that you're like, that's what they voted for. They voted for bad, public land management. They voted for bad policies, and therefore they are going to reap the whirlwinds. This is not a good attitude. I saw my friend Tracy Beans posted something about that this morning. I totally do not get behind this. Fire might be the scariest way to go out in the entire world. If you've ever dealt with burn victims, like fire burn victims, it's atrocious. It activates every pain center in your body, just below the skin. It's fatal oftentimes because it has removed that primary layer that keeps bacteria and viruses and fungi or whatever from taking root inside your epidermis is your opening layer of protection. It's the first part of your immune system. And when burning, oh man, if I could go any way, I would go with a drowning. There's a reason why I have a little kind of trophy to my dive time and my dive training in the Air Force sitting behind me. Because I got drowned all the time. Fire is a real fear. And these residents running away from this and there's videos right now, people getting trapped in their homes with their pet and there's fire all around, like absolutely devastating. It's the Pacific Palisades is burning. They say that 5 football fields per minute are burned with more than 2,900 acres at the moment. The thing is, and I read this, it's like, how did this happen? I saw something from Jennifer Van Laar, who is a reporter or a writer over at Red State. I'm going to read it right off my phone here because this is where I see it. She posted this. It was a note with one of her friends. So unconfirmed, but she's a good reporter and she knows what the rules are. And she posted this out on X. I think this is probably, I guarantee she probably got this in the same way that we're talking about Sam Shoemate and Sean Ryan, whether or not they actually got this information. She's copied like straight from a text message, sounds like with a friend. Says, hey, Jen, I just got off the phone with a neighbor who's an LA County fire air ops pilot. And apparently LA City didn't want to pay for the larger water load Firehawks that LA County Fire operates. So they didn't call for heavy water droppers until the fire was actually out of control. Now, you may ask why that would be. Her follow-up message says they have actually several capable private firefighting helicopters out in Fillmore. They're all ready to go. But the reason that they decided not to do this, the pilot is saying it's because city and state officials will use this as a way to get additional federal funding, making the fire more destructive is actually advantageous for them to get more dollars in from the federal government. If that is the case, and there's a decent chance that is, if you've ever worked around federal governments, if you've ever worked around any government, honestly, like state and local, they make awful decisions for the individual. They make things that are good for the public. The public is like what they think their charge is. A lot of people are getting these Hawaii vibes. It's not good to know that your local government is not looking out for your best interests as an individual, that they don't care about your property and they don't care about the one thing that you really keep them from, force and fraud. Yeah, nature is a thing that's difficult, but if they do the bad job up front and then they're not going to actually even scramble to do the right thing after, horrible. So you wonder, who's in charge of this thing, who's running the show over there. And there she is. Her name is Kristen Crowley. She is the first female and lesbian fire chief. Thank God. You can't make this up. The DEI moment has burned itself for like, just to play on the words here. It has burned itself into our brain that when we hear this, we immediately go that this person is incompetent. And I have no idea if she's competent or not, although I do have a little sense of the way that she presented herself, which seems like she's playing to an audience of California, bad decision theater. This is her bio on the Los Angeles County Fire Chief website. You ready for this? Kristen M. Crowley is the 19th fire chief of Los Angeles Fire. With her wife and children by her side, Chief Crowley took the oath of office on March 25th of 2022, becoming the first female and LGBTQ fire chief in the LAFD. That's the most, listen, when you write something, the first thing you want people to read, you may never get them beyond the first paragraph. That's what they want you to know about her. 2 paragraphs down, they talk about, as a 22-year veteran of LAFD, Chief Crowley proven her credibility and character by promoting through the ranks. She served as a firefighter, paramedic, an engineer, a fire inspector, a Captain 1, Captain 2, battalion chief, assistant chief, deputy assistant chief, chief deputy, and now fire chief. She's done all the positions on the way up. Now, that may be okay. But why are we leading with her DEI credentials? Maybe because that's what she thinks is important. And if that is your focus, then you are going to screw the people that pay you to do the job. Now, you're talking about how many people work there. The department, they claim, which is a diverse department, has 3,400 sworn and 350 civilians, almost 4,000 employees. Now listen to her say how many of them are women. What are the odds that a woman is the best choice of the 4,000 people that are working for LAFD? What is the likelihood that a woman who represents 1 in 150 or less is the best that they have to offer? I'm going to tell you, mathematically speaking, the odds are incredibly low. All of you that are putting it out there, here, I'll throw it on the screen. All of you that are putting it out there that didn't earn it portion. There's our chat, folks. If you're on YouTube, there you can see yourselves talking. You can also interact with the folks over on X. There's our folks over on Rumble on the other side. Yeah, didn't earn it is a real thing. The problem with didn't earn it is then there are real world consequences after that happens. Here's a lesbian fire chief telling you who she wants to recruit because there's an unlimited number of homosexual, lesbian, bisexual, transgender firefighters that are just a perfect mix of people that need to be tapped into. How about really strong, make good decisions, understand emergency medicine, and react coolly under pressure and can walk around in turnout gear? How about those people? Wouldn't that be the best thing to have in the fire world? Look, I didn't work in the fire world that long. I spent, maybe 2 months working in a firehouse. It's more than probably most of you that are not firefighters. I spent time on Medic 9 in Tucson. I rolled out as a augmentee in Williamson County when I worked for a private ambulance company. I've worked in hospitals and received the inbound victims of various different tragedies with fire departments. I don't care what your gender is. I don't care what you want to do with your genitals in your bathroom or your bedroom. What I care is, can you do emergency medicine? Can you carry heavy, sick, fat, dying people and try to prolong them so that the doctors in the surgical suite can actually do the thing they need to do? Here she is telling you that that's not what they're all about.
I'm super inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I say, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
They feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part of a cohesive team.
The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
That just kind of opens the door of people that thought, wow, I didn't even know that was an opportunity for me.
Why? Why did you not know it was an opportunity for you? It's 2024. She was sworn in, 2022? In the last 5 years, would anyone think that the person that you are married to, would that affect your ability, if not probably positively? Do you think that would affect anybody? No. It's an intersection of people who are capable and the people who want to. And when you put those together, it's a small group. And it turns out it's like 115 women. The idea that a female firefighter would be a lesbian is not shocking to any of us, actually, if you want to get right down to it, is it? I had a buddy who was a smoke jumper. He said the women that worked with them were studs. They could do as many pull-ups as the men. They could work as hard and as long. There's about this many of them. And yeah, once they went out and passed the physical requirements, they were treated like part of the team. Nobody cares. Do the job. It's really hard. Do the selection, and you're in. But you better meet the physical requirements because somebody's life may hang in the balance, and most likely to be a member of your team in the Forest Service type jobs. When you're in sort of a city or a county fire department, a little bit different animal. But who cares? This focus has got to go away. It's the opposite of what we're all about. These things are terrible. That's a terrible way to look at it. I guess that's why Donald Trump beat these guys, hands down. I just wanted to show you. I put this slide together, so I might as well show you. I just wanted to prove to you. The top paragraph saying that she's a female lesbian. The bottom paragraph talks about what her capabilities or credibilities are and the fact that she did it. I hope she's a fantastic one, but it doesn't sound very good, especially if they're making these terrible decisions. How else would you describe it? You know what I mean? Before we keep going, because I'm taking a drink of Peggy Cooler here. I'm drinking mine while you guys are not seeing it, so I'll just throw it on the screen. Here it is. This is the wood grain. What do you call this? Wood grain? The first time I ever saw one of these, my buddy, producer Phil had one, and I wanted one myself. This is a 20 ounce. It's full of coffee today, and if you guys want to get your own, you can go to patriotcoolers.com. They are the longest serving sponsor of the Kyle Seraphin Show. We're incredibly grateful that they continue to stay with us. I think we're going to do some neat things in 2025. They make an outstanding product. No one's ever going to order them and be like, man, I got taken. Like, damn you, Kyle. You'll always just go, I really like this thing. In fact, when you see other people with different colors, you will covet them a little bit. And you shouldn't do that because you can always get your own. You just go to patriotcoolers.com. You type in that promo code KYLE. You save yourself 10%. They also get 10% to veterans, by the way. We're not unique in our ability to give you this discount. This is just the one that tags us and lets them know that we sent you along. And you don't have to put in your military credentials. So by all means, check yourself out. Get over there to patriotcoolers.com. Use that promo code if you're so inclined. Spend $50, you get free shipping. You might as well spend a couple bucks more and get yourself two. One for you, one for someone you love, so they don't steal your tumbler. Because if any of you are married, you know how that goes. They're like, oh, I like the way that looks. It's gone. And the link is in the show description for the Kyle Seraphin collection if you want one with the badge like we have sitting up on our beautiful wall of sponsor things that are sitting behind us. By the way, if you've never seen the sponsor wall, right there, that's the Catholic Vote Award that we got for all of you that voted me Catholic Prom King of 2024, I guess. And then right behind that is some of the food from my Patriot Supply. It's just hanging out there. We've got the Wellness Company up as well. So we kind of rotate that thing around. If you've ever wondered what was going on the wall behind me, that's what's going on. I put some shelves up because it reminds me and lets you know we got people that are keeping us in business, and we do appreciate them. Let's talk about business. You guys ready? Shoot, what's the best way to do this? How about the golden age? Let's go Donald Trump golden age. I want you to look at how calm, how collected, how rested, and how articulate he is. I feel like the man is sleeping better since the election. And it's been a long time coming. And man, he's earned it. I think a lot of us are probably sleeping better. Even with less sleep, we're feeling better and we're more articulate. It's Donald Trump on Fox telling people, hey, we're bringing it back. That's what Make America Great means.
We're approaching the dawn of America's golden age. It's going to be a golden age for America. We have things that nobody else has. We have more natural resources. We have, number one, nobody knew that until I came along. I made us number one. We're number three. I made us number one in a very short period of time in drilling. And, you know, you can talk about windmills. They litter our country. They're littered all over our country like dropping paper, like dropping garbage in a field. And that's what happens to them because in a period of time, they turn to garbage. Most expensive energy ever. They only work if you get subsidy. The only people that want them are the people that are getting rich off windmills, getting massive subsidies from the U.S. government. And it's the most expensive energy there is. It's many, many times more expensive than clean natural gas. So we're going to try and have a policy where no windmills are being built. You know, off the coast of New Jersey, they want to build like 200 windmills. The people are going crazy. Nobody wants them, and they're very expensive. They don't work without subsidy. You don't want energy that needs subsidy. Energy is a good business. You don't need subsidy. But when you build these massive towers, and they're 25 stories tall, 40 stories, they have one 70 stories tall. The blades, they take 3 ships to ship them. It's crazy. They're dangerous. You see what's happening up in the Massachusetts area with the whales, where they had 2 whales wash ashore in, I think, a 17-year period. And now they had 14 this season.
Listen to what he's saying, though. Like, this is kind of incredible because this is all the stuff that I see on what I'll call right-wing social media or conservative social media, calling out all the major points. One, you don't need to subsidize energy. It makes a ton of money if you just take, the governor off and allow it to run free. Two, they're killing off whales. They kill off birds. It takes a tremendous amount of physical material to build these things. They are completely unsustainable. And three, the amount of, I think we have the, who's the guy that does it? It's Billy Bob Thornton that's in this new show, Landsman, where they're kind of explaining that it takes more concrete and diesel and fuel and manufacturing capabilities to build these windmills they never offset themselves. And they need diesel and oil and all kinds of things coming out of the petroleum industry to be able to lubricate them and make them function. It is an unsustainable boondoggle. And Trump's just calling it all out right there. He's like, look, and he's just doing it off the cuff because he reads the same stuff that you do. How cool is that? I mean, I really do actually like it. And I love it when Donald Trump is not in always troll mode. Sometimes when he starts talking about policies, you're like, dude, that makes way too much sense. It's the same reason why we talk about car batteries in electric vehicles. And you're like, the infrastructure's not there yet. Maybe one day. But until battery technology changes, where is the electricity coming from that charges the batteries at, let's say, a Tesla supercharger? Where's it come from? It's burning coal. It's burning natural gas. It might be nuclear, but unlikely because the left somehow hates nuclear. It's coming from fossil fuels. And then it's going to go transmit along a bunch of lines. In the same way you're going to lose some in transmission. You lose some in transmission from all of those to the power grid. Or you could just have a diesel engine that just powers up, makes a little bit of noise, and it burns that fossil fuel directly, and it turns it into something. Probably the best system that I've seen. If you guys have ever seen this, there's a thing called the Ford Power Boost. My buddy has one. And he paid whatever the bottom dollar was for the lowest trim. So my buddy Jared drives around this truck. It has a pretty good size battery in it, and it has essentially a generator as well. And it's constantly charging. So it's charging a big battery and allowing it to do this hybrid thing. The hybrid animal is not a bad idea for what we have right now. It's really not, especially if you could turn on a generator that's going to store energy and then put it back into, so you're not losing anything in transmission. When you start up your vehicle right now, the alternator is just sending fuel, power wherever. Some of it's going to be used, some of it won't. Oh well. Trump's just saying reasonable things. It's nice to see that reasonable guy Trump, which is a real person. He's not just 100% troll, and reasonable guy like John Fetterman, who knew, but coming from a place like Pennsylvania, it kind of makes some sense. You'd expect that. He billed himself as being a regular dude. You got two guys that are coming in and just saying things that are making sense. That's what today's program is all about. That is a golden age. It's kind of a throwback. It's probably why a bunch of people from Gen X who don't really care about politics per se could get behind people. Now they're talking about the other thing. This one's the funniest part. We touched on it earlier, the sort of, the threat of America first. Here's the hard left outlet, MSNBC. This guy's named Zishan Alim. I like reading this stuff. I don't even know what he looks like, but I can just picture it, and so can you. Every American president is tasked with overseeing a global empire. Really? Are you guys cool with using the word global empire right now? Is that right? All right, cool. So they're tasked with seeing a global empire. President-elect Trump said he's going to put his signature on the scammy touch to the enterprise. What the heck? We'll be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring to it. First of all, it does. I'm going to let him say it because it's pretty funny. It's such a good little troll for these people. They just don't know what to do with it. So let's do Donald Trump talking about we're taking over all the things. We're going to make America great. We're going to make America expand. I think we have more coastline than Mexico, don't we? If nothing else, we're certainly more powerful than Mexico. Why don't we call it the Gulf of Mexico? Well, I think Gulf of America sounds great. And everybody's sort of taken on to this. It is a fun troll because it's got them talking about how dangerous it is that he's going to go out there and upset our allies or change the maps. Maps change every single day. They rename roads. They call something Black Lives Matter Plaza. I didn't hear any crying about that. Let's take the Gulf of Mexico. Here we go.
It's ours. We're going to be changing sort of the opposite of Biden, where he's closing everything up, essentially getting rid of $50 to $60 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate. And Mexico has to stop allowing millions of people to pour into our country. They can stop them. And we're going to put very serious tariffs on Mexico and Canada.
Yep. And we're taking your hockey players because we have better hockey teams. There it is. All right. It makes sense. Look, this is the troll version of it. He's saying, we're going to get you. And so he's got all the mainstream folks. You got the people on the hard left. They can't help but bite. They're like a walleye that's like snapping at something that's shiny, right? And then he says the real thing, which is that people around the globe better straighten up, because while you guys have been able to play and you've seen weak leadership and you've seen a Biden administration that was giving things away and ceding territory and allowing the Chinese to come in and dominate our hemisphere, and we weren't going to go in and process them. We weren't going to do any prosecutions. And again, like I said, whistleblowers have come to me that I've brought to Congress that have shown that the DOJ has decidedly have used their prosecutorial discretion to not bring cases against Chinese CI subjects who should have been prosecuted, who we should have sent a strong message about, and that didn't happen. And we've also lost a lot of face, and we've lost people on the world stage, including hostages that are being held in the Middle East right now. This is a little message where you see Trump kind of like chirping in the background. He's just saying, guys, you better figure this thing out. He issued sort of an ultimatum. We're going to let all hell break loose if you don't get yourself on the right track before I'm sworn in. Considering Biden is sort of like AWOL right now, considering that he's basically asleep at the wheel and has been for, well, maybe 4 years, but certainly for the last 6-8 months, ever since the campaign dropped him, we haven't seen Joe Biden. Joe Biden is not the president, apparently. It's just like, it's someone's ghost riding the whip of America. Here's kind of like a hard recorrection so we don't hit the curb.
Back probably either this evening or tomorrow night.
Are you confident there'll be a deal before January 20th, or is that something that's likely to happen? If there's a deal even at all, and we've been hearing this now for the better part of...
I know. I would say...
They better be.
Right. I would say that the president is exasperated. I don't want to talk for him, but look, I don't know anyone who delegates better than President Trump. He gives us a lot of authority to speak on his behalf, and he exhorts us to speak emphatically. And emphatically means you better do this, because the alternative...
Do you think they're waiting for President Trump to take office?
No, I think they heard him loud and clear. Better get done by the inaugural.
But when you say all hell will be paid, all hell must be paid if they don't release the hostages.
You know what that means, don't you? Well, do I have to define it for you? Look,
He's like, yo, do I got to tell you what it is? I told him, get it done. You know what this means. You don't need explicit instructions. Classic. And you can see he just can't help himself. He's got to weigh in because he's just dealing with these clowns. The media, they just want him to say something inflammatory so they can pounce on it. If you guys don't know how this works. I saw an article the other day from Newsweek talking about the Sean Ryan situation. We'll touch on that real quickly. Let's see if I've got a slide here. So the situation is that there was an email sent to a guy named Sam Shoemate. I got myself involved on accident because Rob Green, who's been a guest of our program, reached out and asked me to connect him to the FBI. They did. Sean Ryan's reached out recently as well. We got the same thing going on. We made sure that the FBI had access to this stuff. They pounced. Newsweek did. And they were like, Sean Ryan issues apology. And he told them, like, hey, you better straighten yourself out. Like, he was my guest who issued an apology in a Twitter space, which was big. I mean, there was a big audience. It's bigger than our show, just the gathering over on X. The fact of the matter is that Sean didn't issue an apology, and neither did Sam. Sam Shoemate did not issue an apology per se. He said, if somebody was really hurt by what I did, I apologize. That's an if. That's a conditional statement. That doesn't mean he said he did anything wrong, because he didn't. He brought forward information because Americans deserve information. You guys want information. You don't attack the messenger. Somebody is attacking the messenger, and it's been kind of an interesting little co-op. Guys like Jack Posobiec, who I don't know at all, and I don't know anything. I don't know enough about Jack to know what his deal is, but he was wrong. He was saying things and attacking people. He was attacking their credibility instead of just agreeing that it was a good faith thing, and we're going to just say we don't necessarily know if this guy was saying the truth. There's a way to shape this where you become like an online provocateur. And for some reason, Seb Gorka is doing the same thing. And I like Sebastian Gorka. Many of you may not feel strongly about him. He's been very nice to me in the Suspendables. He's met up with us. He's warm. He's brought us on his program. He gave us an opportunity to have a voice. So I'm not mad at Seb, although I'm disappointed that he's doing this. And then he starts posting out about some dude who's this fat YouTube scumbag called Ryan Macbeth, who's like skewering frauds, who's making these things for the click, where he's like he's the meme. This guy, Ryan Macbeth, he's like, actually, like, this is how it works. And like, I got crumbs in my belly button. Like, he erroneously, he got hit with the, Seb got hit with this, the community notes. Says the statement is false, like that you made, and that Ryan Macbeth erroneously asserts that Sam Shoemate's claims have been received. And, I got to hear, look, we don't trust the FBI at the Kyle Seraphin Show. My audience, I know you guys don't either. Folks, you don't trust the Bureau. But let me just tell you this. The Bureau got backed into a corner. They had no way but to try to validate whether this was legit or not. This guy, Spencer Evans, he's scum. Spencer Evans is the guy that denied my religious accommodation request twice. He's the guy that straight up emailed back and said that you have a duty to go swab your nose in violation of your sincerely held principles in discriminatory fashion. And he's named in the lawsuit, like he's part of the lawsuit. All of his documents that he sent over to me are now part of a lawsuit with the DOJ. So I have no faith in this guy whatsoever. But I do trust my own ears. I do trust the fact that I taped the phone call. And by the way, if you're in the FBI and you call me, I'm taping it. I live in Texas. This is a one-party consent state. You call me, I record you. Why? Because we don't trust you. So this is not like a trust but verify. This is a verified. Seraphin is telling you, they called me early. We had a conversation, and I have a tape of the agent out in Las Vegas who did it, and that's why Sean Ryan put it out. You know, I think it's sad. I don't know why Seb is sort of embarrassing himself with this stuff, but he did. Here's Spencer Evans confirming the validity, at least that they believe that that email came out in good faith. And that means that Sam Ryan did the right thing. Validated. Sean Ryan did the right thing. Sam Shumate did the right thing. Las Vegas FBI validating something that they never would do. They would never tell you this stuff if they were the only ones who were in control of it. They just knew that it was out of their control mechanism, so they had to address it because they do at least have a little sense that their PR nightmare continues. Here's Spencer Evans, Las Vegas FBI Special Agent in Charge.
Spencer Evans, Special Agent in Charge of the FBI's Las Vegas Division. In terms of a question about the validity of what Leibelsberger put out to the public, either in the two-page manifesto or additional documentation we're discovering, we're not speaking to the content. I can say, as Sheriff Corrin described and others, it runs the gamut. I mean, he's talking about feeling that he was, surveilled, guilt. You can tell there's, some anguish there, some frustration with the government. I mean, there's a whole host of things. So we haven't gotten into what's legitimate, what's not. The only thing that, out of an abundance of caution, in as much as there's Department of Defense equities that speak to sources and methods or something else that would endanger folks overseas, that's not being released. But beyond that, we haven't vetted any of his writings to determine, what's legitimate and what was in his own head. Including whatever happened in 2019? Yeah, including, he alleges a variety of things, and we haven't gotten into the weeds on any of that.
That podcast email is him.
Yeah, so we have confirmed that the document that he sent to the podcast, we know that he was the one that sent that document.
Okay, do we trust the FBI? No. Do we think that when the FBI is squeezed, they're going to say the truth? Yes, I do. That's it. The end. Okay? There's no reason to jump on things and be the first one to report something or try to debunk it. Like, just take a breath. I know that Seb Gorka is friendly with Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino, famously, the Bongino rule, right? Like, wait 72 hours. Just wait. You don't have to be the first one. You don't have to do what Jack Poso did and jump on it, say things. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You don't have all the facts, and neither do any of you listening. And by the way, neither do I, but I got more facts than most people. I've got it sitting right here on this recorder. I've got phone calls, and they are recorded. And it tells us what we needed to know, which is that these people operated in good faith. They did the best thing they could do with what they had. And if you want more information, you don't attack the messenger. You say, thank you for bringing more information. I'll add that into my little mental thing. Most of you are not investigators, and none of you have access to all the facts. I guarantee it, because FBI Las Vegas won't release them. I just want to see people act a little bit more in good faith. That's all. That's what I want. Because there's bigger fish to fry. Here's one of them. Here's a fish. That's Juan Mershon. These are two stories that I think are sort of related to each other. The weaponized government is not done. We talk about it in some of the ad reads, but it's legitimately not done. Donald Trump has asked the Supreme Court to block the New York hush money sentencing. The other day, he was denied his appeal, saying, hey, can we push this back? And they said no. Juan Mershon said it's very, very important that we send you January 10th. We're talking about Friday. I'm going to be on Timcast on Friday, so we're going to forego the show. Okay? I'm going to be out in West Virginia. We'll talk about it, I guess, on Monday, but the sentencing may not happen if the Supreme Court sets in. But he's going forward. They're full court press. This is the only shot that made it past the goalie. In all the lawsuits and all the attempts to take down Donald Trump, the hush money case where they extended the statute and they extended the definition and they basically went after a victimless crime, that thing is the last thing up there. And they're doing the last Hail Mary, which is to say the Supreme Court should step in because Donald Trump's about to be sworn in as president. He's just been certified. And now I imagine they have some standing to ask the Supreme Court. The logistics of this are kind of interesting. I don't know all of them. I also know that Donald Trump's attorneys are asking Merrick Garland to not release a special counsel report because the special counsel, Jack Smith, created all these documents and they want to smear him. They want to smear Trump before he comes out. The nasty thing about special counsel reports are none of them that were not brought forward in a prosecutable document, if they were not actually alleged and sworn out in front of court, they're just things that they wrote. DOJ has no burden of proof. They're like allegations that are unsubstantiated and have never been tried, and the person doesn't get due process. They're attempting to try it in the court of public appeal for the people that might be haters. And that audience, by the way, is very, very small. It's Democrat senators and it's Republican senators that are weak. That's why I opened up with what I did. The audience of people that are going to be affected by a lot of this stuff, if you're not paying attention to the way that the game is being played, the credibility game and the way that we talk about people like Kash Patel and you see guys like Adam Schiff getting out there and trying to make the Las Vegas attack something that has to do with a new FBI director that's not there instead of smearing the idiot that's in charge right now. All of this stuff is meant to be just smokescreen so that senators who are cowardly, particularly Republican ones, because you'd assume that Democrats are mostly going to be on the other team, most of this is an attempt to give them cover fire or give them smokescreen to act in bad faith for their constituents and not agree to the people that Donald Trump wants to put in. That's a lot of what's going on right now. A lot of these stories, a lot of these political machinations, they understand they've already lost a piece of it. So how do they snatch a little bit of victory back from the defeat that they just experienced on November 5th? And it's an ongoing little game, and the media is complicit in it. And I'm seeing it on CBS, and I'm seeing it on NBC, and so on. It's in many places, and they're trying to get here it is. This is the story. Trump's attorneys don't want this thing out in the public, not because I think that they're afraid. They've already seen all the strongest evidence. It's already been charged in charging documents, and then some of those things have been dismissed. And then they drop the prosecution. But if they can just sneak a couple more zingers past there, it gives people like the Lisa Murkowskis and the Susan Collin types, the folks that are otherwise ideologically aligned with Democrats anyway and weak on principles, they can hide behind that and stuff about Greenland and the irresponsible treatment of the Panama Canal or whatever the hell he's going to do. All of this stuff. Kind of interesting that piece keeps going on. I think I've got a video here from Scott Jennings as we get towards the end. I'll play this real quickly. I think he addresses it really well about the way that it's being played, at least on the Trump end of things, and why you keep everything on the table. So anything else is sort of disingenuous. They're crying about like the empire. I think Jennings' take on CNN continues to be pretty good. That's not it, is it? How about, nope. What about this one?
America is not an expansionist military power, not in the 21st century. Okay?
Why?
Because that's
Why not?
Because that's not the world that we live in.
Wait, hold on, Scott. You answered that question.
Yes.
Why is the United States not...
So you're for attacking Greenland?
Why is the United States not an expansionist military power?
I said you're open to the idea of attacking Greenland?
We created...
No, we don't need to attack Greenland. We could buy it.
We can't buy it. It's not up for sale. So what you're saying is not true.
Order
Nothing. Everything's not for sale until it is.
Hang on, Scott. We helped create a world order in which we said you cannot just decide you want that country and then take your military and go into that country and take it. Okay? So that is the era of not being in an expansionist military era for the United States. And you're saying that's not true. Why is it not true?
Well, I mean, you could think small if you want to. I think Trump's thinking big, and he's thinking about U.S. interests. There are U.S. interests in Greenland. They have rare earth minerals. We already have some kind of space facility there, and it would help fortify us against the Russians. The Panama Canal is, of course, of interest when you consider the Chinese incursions and influence in this hemisphere. What Donald Trump is saying to the world is, we are not a shrinking violet anymore. We are the United States of America. We are the preeminent superpower. And reporters keep asking him to rule things out and take things off the table. And it would be the height of stupidity to do so now or to anything else before he takes office. Why would he tell the rest of the world what he may or may not do?
Here's one reason why.
Golden age. That's how you do it. You just tell them. And I think Scott Jennings is correct. It's like you don't give them your playbook. You're just trolling the left-wing media on some of it. But you're also making a broader statement, which is that get your act in line. The world must. It doesn't matter if it's in the Middle East or if it's in the Chinese that are coming into our hemisphere or whether you're talking about Greenland because it's funny. But also, there's some strategic purposes there. So be it. Okay, fine. We have other protectorates around the world, folks. We have places like what the hell we do with Guam. Like, well, we needed a base out there for the Navy. So that's why it might tip over at any moment if you listen to Hank Johnson. All right. So all of those things I think are relevant. I wanted to also tease out before we get going because I actually have a little bit of a quick video here. This is something, kind of a moment of triumph. We were reflecting on January 6th. One of the things we're doing on this program is that for the next few weekends, we're going to be highlighting and doing profiles of J6ers, particularly people I like. We did Jay Rivera. He was a journalist. We do Steve Baker this weekend, and he's got some real wild stuff he's talking about. Directed energy weapons being used on U.S. soil. Yeah, let me just say that one more time. He has proof. It is documented in open source documents that they are revealing over at The Blaze. Make sure you are watching The Blaze. That directed energy weapons, which are old technologies, we go into it in very, very deep detail. They've been around for like 70 years. These directed energy weapons were authorized for use, and he found pictures of them being used and admission by the U.S. federal government that they were used on U.S. people on U.S. soil in 2020. You're going to want to see this. So make sure you bookmark our page and get ready. If you're part of Locals, you'll get it on Saturday. You'll get the Sunday conversation on Saturday. If you are part of the rest of the program here, if you're part of Rumble, or if you're watching us on X, or if you're over on YouTube and so on, you'll get it over on Sunday. It starts at, I think, 9 o'clock. We run these things. They're taped, folks, because I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be on the road. Here's Steve Baker telling you about a kind of a personal triumph. And I just wanted to highlight this because he's a friend of mine, but also it does show you that the energy is changing. And a lot of that has to do with that election switch. I think Steve's sleeping better as well.
Something really exciting happened for me. And it was validation for the work that we've done, especially since I've been with The Blaze. And Julio Rosas was with me during this time. But we were looking for, asking directions for a particular place. And I stopped a plainclothes Capitol Police officer, and I started asking him where to go. Or maybe he reached out to me and said, "Gentlemen, do you need directions?" I think that's how it happened. And I started answering him, and he said, "Why do I recognize your voice? Why do I recognize your voice? Say something again." And so I'm just talking to him, and then he goes, "Oh, you're the guy that does all those videos on Harry Dunn. Come with me, come with me." And he took us over and introduced us to another plainclothes cop who took us over into the corner. And I mean, they were thanking us profusely for the work that they'd done. They said the only people in this building that don't like what you've done are the white shirts upstairs, you know, the chiefs and the assistant chiefs. But the line officers, the plainclothes officers, they all, as he said, they all read our stuff. They all watch our videos, and they're very thankful for the work that we've done in exposing the corruption upstairs.
All right. So, guys, check that out, too, if you're not keeping track of what's going on with my friend Steve Baker. And like I said, we're going to be talking to him long form. I think it's about 3 hours. It might even be longer than that. We went into the weeds all the way. I don't redact the conversation, so it's an unredacted conversation on Sundays. So check that out. For those of you who are asking who the blonde is, that's Jill Savage. That's Jill Savage. Yes, I do read the chat during the video intermissions here when I'm watching around. Jill Savage does, I think it's Blaze Tonight or Blaze News Tonight. So it's a good program if you guys are into it, if you subscribe over there. If not, you can always get a little bit more Steve Baker over with me. Okay, Gen X for the win. Let me just remind some younger viewers, which is probably not very many of you. Most of you know what this lady's going to say before she says it. There was a way that we used to handle old technology. Young kids today are looking around going like, how did you guys do things? One, we talked to people we didn't agree with. We had friends that didn't agree with everything we thought. We didn't live in echo chambers or bubbles in the same way. And two, our technology is just as efficient. We just had to do it a little bit differently. How did you block phone calls back in the 80s, y'all? You already know the answer. Here we go.
Today's question for Gen X. How did you guys used to block people and not talk to people when you didn't want to talk to them on old phones like this? What do you do?
So it's going to ring. I'll demonstrate. Bitch! And they're gonna call back. Quit calling me back! And then you know they're gonna call back again, so we did this.
There it is. Wait for it. Wait for the tone.
The blocking feature on phones. Phones like that. Any other questions?
How many of you, that is so annoying, by the way. How many of you have heard that sound in forever? The phone being off the hook sound. Does it even make that sound anymore? I hope so. Anyway, some things I miss. I miss actually having a landline like that and not being able to be around the phone. And it's like, well, the other thing is my wife reminded me, is that we screened you through the answering machine. They made whole songs about it if you were a No Doubt fan like I was when I was a kid. Gwen Stefani did that, didn't she? She was walking through the spider webs, so leave a message and she'll call you back. Yeah. Anyway, things that are not there anymore. Our kids are growing out without some of this stuff. It's a shame, but not everybody. So go out there and raise your kids like we used to and go get them outside and go do some fun stuff. It's freezing cold today in Texas. I'm going to go out and try to play with my kids just a bit, and we're going to edit that video together for Steve Baker. We'll see you guys again. We'll see you again tomorrow morning at 0930 Eastern Time. That's 8:30 here in Texas, America. Thanks for joining the Kyle Seraphin Show. Make sure you have liked it if you were watching. I appreciate all of you that have joined us. I see the numbers continue to go up every single morning. So thanks for being part of the audience. Thanks for being part of this community. If you've never done it on Rumble, you'll see how fast our chat moves. We'll see you guys again. God bless. Have a great Wednesday.
Thanks for listening to the Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.